Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and as John Campea calls me, your existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett, and this is the John Campea Show Mailbag for Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. And let's get first things first out of the way. Tallulah, come here. Come on up. Come on. Jump up. Well, she's not coming up. Come on, you want to come up? Cool, come here. Oh, yes. Now, come on. You want to be on camera, don't you? Come here. Look, this is Tallulah. Tallulah is an Irish doodle. She is 50% Irish setter and 50% poodle, right? Isn't that what you are? Yeah. And if she barks, because she always does, she's a very sweet dog. She's going to be 4 years old. And all she wants is attention. And on that note, I'm going to just jump right in and see what you have sent into the tips. Now, of course, as you know, on the John Campea Show, after we do the topics of the day, you have a limited amount of time to get in your questions via Super Chats, and they will always be answered that day on the show live. But in case you don't have time, or you weren't there, or you still want to fire in a question, you can use the tip link below. And 24/7, 7 days a week, around the world, you can send us your questions, and we will answer them on the mailbag. Either John will, I will, or we'll do them together. Today, you have me and the dogs. Let's just jump right in and see what you, our friends around the world, have to say. We start with Christopher Baker sending in a tip. Did you catch the possible Doctor Doom Easter egg in episode 1 of Moon Knight when he wakes up with a dislocated jaw? The theory is that's his castle in the distance. But, was it Latveria? People say that. I think you need to know your Marvel geography. I'm not saying that it isn't possible, because I think all of Moon Knight is all about an unreliable narrator, so I can't say anything, but I don't think that's Doom's castle. I don't. We've seen a few Easter eggs in the various shows. I don't think this is one of them. Tom S. sends in a tip and said, so, previously you were pretty set in saying there can't be both a favorite and a best. Oh, I love this. But your comment about Wayne Gretzky the other day, you said he was the greatest, but not your favorite. So which is it? Either way, much respect. Love you guys. Tom, you're a man after my own heart. I do not subscribe to John's theory. And he contradicted himself with this Gretzky point he was making, that Gretzky is the greatest, but not his favorite. I think that's true of movies. And John's going to hate me for doing this. I don't see him here. My favorite Star Trek movie is Star Trek the Motion Picture. I will not go into why. I have many reasons. I would implore all of you that have Paramount Plus, watch the newly restored director's cut in 4K of Star Trek the Motion Picture. It might change your mind. It's my favorite Star Trek movie. My favorite. It is not the best Star Trek movie. That would be Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I can recognize that, but I can also acknowledge that for reasons that are my own, Star Trek the Motion Picture is my favorite, but I also recognize it's not the best. So there you go. I think John is correct in saying Gretzky's the best, but not his favorite. Same is true of movies. John Davidian, one of two. Sup? Where's the outrage at Sony for gasket advertising Morbius? From the Oscorp Tower to the Spider-Man graffiti to all of Keaton's cut scenes, Sony didn't just mislead, they outright lied to audiences with how they marketed this film. I feel like it's getting swept under the rug, but it sets a dangerous precedent. As a diehard Spider-Man fan, I and much of the online community speculated for months about this film's universe, but it was all a lie. Should Sony be held accountable? Well, studios, Hollywood, they lie all the time. Look, I agree with you. I think one of the great things about the Marvel movies, I love the MCU. I love Bryan Singer's X-Men universe before that. Hit and miss though it was. I love what Matthew Vaughn did. I love what Bryan did with X-Men Days of Future Past. I love what Tim Miller did with the first Deadpool. So, to me, it's all about the filmmakers, the writers, the actors, the people that make the actual films. The studios are liars. But I don't understand. I think Morbius smacked of massive studio interference, and I don't quite understand why. I mean, I think the box office holds... The only way the studios are held accountable is with their money. Did the movie make money? At the end of the day, those studio bosses that made the decision to cut or change things, they have to live with it. I think Morbius, just by looking at the movie that we saw, was probably a much better film than we saw. I don't know for a fact, but I think it could have been. And I think it was because of studio interference. And I think at the end of the day, you kick them where it hurts. They didn't make the kind of money they hoped. They didn't make Venom money. I mean, how do you mess up a vampire movie? I don't know. Listen, we don't have to hold Sony accountable. Their shareholders will. And their Japanese overlords will. So, Anonymous says, all preach on the awesomeness of Dream Theater. Yes, the alien. John, you're a Rush fan, so you'd love him. I've been watching you since 2011, and like me, love the Islanders and National Hockey League legend Mike Bossy. He's now in palliative care for lung cancer. Oh, say a prayer for him. Thanks. Well, nice mentioning Dream Theater. I love Rush. I don't know Mike Bossy because I was never really a hockey fan. Even though Seattle had a hockey team, I didn't follow it. But you know what? Palliative care for lung cancer. All the best to him. Anonymous, thank you for supporting the channel. Spud Queen sends in a tip and says, regarding Ezra Miller, do you think they would say that the Flash movie is outside the DCEU like the Batman, then reboot the Flash character? Just a random thought I had. It seems like a relatively painless way to leave behind Ezra's iteration. Well, as of today, apparently charges were dropped by this couple. I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, I love Ezra Miller's iteration of the Flash. I hope he works out his demons, his issues, his problems. It's not good for anybody. Not good for anyone. But again, I don't know what to say. It's just not good. I don't think they should leave him behind though, because he was in a shot in Batman v Superman. He was obviously in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He was in the CW Flash. Now he's going to be in his own movie. What I think we should be worried about mostly is Ezra Miller getting the help he needs. If he indeed needs help, he seems like he does. I really like him as a performer. I've said it before. I loved him in We Have to Talk About Kevin, which he was creepy as fuck. Should I say that? As fuck. And he also, I thought he was great in Perks of Being a Wallflower. He was the kind of friend I would always have wanted in high school. Mike G says, I am loving Moon Knight, as am I. Saw Oscar Isaac perform Hamlet, with Keegan-Michael Key at the Public in downtown New York City a few years ago. Small stage. The cast just wore what they had on that day, and they ran through the entire play. Isaac as Hamlet was fantastic. Cheers. Mike G, come on, dude. How great was that? What an amazing experience you had there. Mike G brings up something like, look what he got to see. Oscar Isaac perform Hamlet with Keegan-Michael Key, another great performer. Here's the thing. My life philosophy is get out of your house. If you ever have an opportunity to walk down the street, go someplace, your first inclination is always going to be, I don't want to go. It's easier for me to stay home. Never do that. Go. Just go out, boldly go, as one man once said. Boldly go and see what happens. Because I'll tell you something. Like, you will always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Well, it's kind of true of adventure. You're never going to find an adventure unless you set out on one. And even if it's down to the street corner, or, my favorite thing to do is get up on a Saturday or Sunday morning, get up with a significant other or a friend, get up at 6 a.m., pick your friend up, and drive 100 miles in a direction you've never gone. Pick something out beforehand. A small town that's within driving distance of where you live. Do some research on the small town. Go to that small town. Go meet people. Go to a diner. Find a bar. Just go out, hang out, walk the streets. Find out what's significant about that town. There's something significant about every town. And experience it. Hang out, drive home 2 hours. You've had a great day. It's an adventure. It'll expand your horizons. You never know what's going to happen. So that's awesome, Mike G, that you checked that out. Love it. Slick Saturn says, some ideas for the new name of the show. The Film Current, the Cinema Current, Film Spot, Movies Now, In the Can, The Morning, The Daily Take-In. The Daily Take-In, In the Frame, CinemaScope. In the Frame, CinemaScope Love, The Show, and Stay Rad, crew. Slick Saturn. I have been saying, or staying, Rad for as long as I can remember. Or there's also the movie The Rad, and The Rad 2 even radder, or as we like to say, The Raid and The Raid 2 Barrandall. Check those out. Love that idea. Some good ideas there. I don't know what it's going to be. It's not up to me. It's up to John. Ethan Holgate sends in tips, 1 of 2. Hi, John and Rob. I think we can all agree that the post-credit scenes for Morbius were god-awful and made no sense whatsoever, but I had a thought. I think of a way for them to make sense. The multiverse being all messed up still wouldn't explain how he knows Morbius or how he got his suit, considering the way they did it. I don't know. Still can't wrap my head around how foolish they were to do that. Also, has Rob seen Ambulance yet? No, first of all, I have not got my dose of Bayham. Still been moving, still been crazy. You know, you can see me here. You're never supposed to shoot in front of a window. I am. Don't know how well it's going. I don't have my studio set up, so I'm shooting on this beautiful laptop that John actually acquired for me. Pretty dope. I mean, if you don't have lights and you don't have cameras, you can still get action. I haven't seen Ambulance yet, but I obviously do want to see it. You know, the Morbius, to me, I'm like, you had one job. Like, if you're gonna have tombs in whatever universe Morbius is in, all you have to do is give us an explanation that we can believe in. They didn't do that. I mean, I don't know why. I didn't buy any of it. And I don't understand, why did they think, I mean, think about it. They watch these things in an edit bay, executives see these things, marketing people see these things, and that's what they served up to us? I call that dereliction of duty. Not so good. Could be better. Don't know why it wasn't. Dangerous D sends in a tip and says, hi, John and Rob. On the topic of Grant Gustin replacing Ezra Miller in the DCEU, I say, why not? He's a good actor. The fact the CW Flash has a low rating isn't a reason. That show sucks. Even if Tom Cruise were in that show, it wouldn't save it. True, they can get an actor to... no, I guess that was it. You didn't say one of... They can get an actor too. Maybe you sent something in. Look, here's the thing. The reason is that Grant Gustin has not proved himself as a theatrical draw. You know, you can't put any actor in a movie. The fact is, does that actor's face look great on a giant screen? I know it seems weird, but it is true. You've got to have an actor that will bring in the people, that will satisfy all of us. And I think, for better or for worse, Ezra Miller is a movie star. You know, he's opening this weekend in Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. So you can't just randomly, I mean, he doesn't have what a studio needs to see. He might be a great actor, but he hasn't yet proven himself at the theatrical box office. So that's pretty much why. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, after Spider-Man No Way Home, I thought to myself that there's no way Doctor Strange 2 would not make at least $1 billion. It's literally a follow-up to No Way Home. How could you guys sleep on Doctor Strange 2? It's a no-brainer. Well, Anonymous, remember, I mean, $1 billion is not a foregone conclusion. And the fact is, the movie still has to be good. I mean, I know that everyone tries to make the best movie possible, but what if, for whatever reason, and I don't know what that reason would be, that Doctor Strange 2 does not, it's promised us a lot. What if it doesn't deliver on that promise? Like, even me, I'm thinking to myself, my God, Doctor Strange is probably going to be like the greatest movie since sliced bread. But on the other hand, the movie still has to be good. Spider-Man No Way Home was really good. It gave you that emotional, I mean, even I, jaded old man with one foot in the grave, even I, when those portals were opened and you saw Toby and you saw Andrew, I'm like, oh my God. I even knew it was coming. But the way it was done, they had me, man. Excuse me. All the feels. So the movie still has to be good. And we don't know yet. I mean, I'm sure it is because Marvel's pretty good about that. But I don't think we're sleeping on it because we've talked about it forever. But the movie still has to be good. Dr. Nova sends in a tip. I do not understand the amount of energy Rob is putting into hating Star Trek. I was a big fan of Doctor Who, and then when it got bad with the new showrunner, I stopped watching. And I'll start again when he leaves. I only watch things I like and cats. Well, Dr. Nova, let me explain something. A lot of people ask me this. I have literally been watching Star Trek since I was 5 years old. And then it was only the original series. Then there was an animated series that lasted 22 episodes. And then when I was beginning my teenage years, there was Star Trek The Motion Picture. Then there was the classic, there was Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, and in 87, Star Trek The Next Generation, which took place 80 or 90 years after the original series. Then in 93, Deep Space Nine. Then in 95, Voyager. Then in 2001, Enterprise. And during that time, movies as well, books, comics, everything. So literally my entire life, as I grew up, As I grew up, Star Trek changed and evolved. And it was always different. It was always moving forward. Star Trek The Motion Picture, the new director's cut that is on Paramount Plus now, when that came out 10 years after the end of the original series, the movie allowed for the time that had passed and the characters were different than we remembered them. And it was fascinating as I was getting older and I was so set in my ways watching these shows, to see my characters grow and change and evolve, and then to see Star Trek grow and change and evolve, it became part of my life for decades. Then, for the very first time in Star Trek history, in 2009, they decided to make J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie, and they rebooted in an alternate universe Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Star Trek ceased to evolve. Star Trek Discovery is a prequel series to the original. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is a prequel series to the original. Star Trek hasn't gone anywhere. Star Trek Picard is a sequel to Next Generation. Well, when I was growing up, Star Trek was always moving forward. Now it's treading water, and it's treading water not well. And the thing is, for me, it's a part of my life. I can't not watch it. And a lot of people say, well, Rob, just don't watch it. I have hundreds of Star Trek novels. I have reference books. I have worked professionally for Star Trek a number of times. I worked on the Star Trek, The Experience that was in Vegas. I was a Star Trek consultant, believe it or not, for Viacom, CBS, and Paramount in the mid-90s. They asked me to tell them what Star Trek was good. I was paid to do that. I made a feature film that I wrote and directed about my love of Star Trek that stars William Shatner called Free Enterprise. Hopefully we'll get it out soon because it's basically a forgotten geek classic, if I do say so myself. So I can't not watch Star Trek. But I think that like so much of the world today, Star Trek was always aspirational to me. It was not about people I knew. It was about people I wanted to know. It was about a future I hoped to exist in. Now, Star Trek seems to be reflecting our modern world back to us, not through allegory, but the characters that even exist 1,000 years from now, act like they're people of today. I think Star Trek has really gone awry, and yet it's also, in a way, a reflection of our time, so I learned from it. I can't not Watch it. Dr. Nova goes on to say, I hope I didn't bore everyone. All of you are like, John doesn't even want me to talk about Star Trek, but I could wax rhapsodic about it for a long time. Dr. Nova sends in a tip again and says, for the record, I'm still a fan of Doctor Who. I listen to Big Finish, those are audio dramas, which are better written stories, and I'm pissed that the show is bad because Jodie Whittaker is a great actress, and I wanted to prove all the sexist jerks wrong. I love Jodie Whittaker. You know, I'm like a big fan of things like Broadchurch, and I think that's where I first saw her. You know, I don't think it's the sexist jerks. If Jodie Whittaker, if she was written really well, nobody would care. I honestly believe no one cares if you're watching a man, a woman who's straight or gay or non-binary, whatever. Nobody really cares about that. What people want, very simple. They want great stories, great characters. And that's it. The problem is when they make a woman, an actress, play Doctor Who hasn't been played by a woman in 50 years, what are you going to do with a female character, a female doctor, which, by the way, I think could be a great idea. But how are you going to make that different? I mean, I feel like what ends up happening then is like, so you've changed the gender of Doctor Who, so all of your stories, all you can do is tell us politically motivated stories. And I'm like, you know, Doctor Who, like Star Trek, like The Twilight Zone, like Outer Limits, the great genre shows. When Star Trek, Doctor Who, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, when they were created, these were in the late 50s and early 60s. And they were born out of a certain era, and all of the stories were allegorical. So when they wanted to make a political commentary, they would introduce an alien race, or they would introduce some kind of a problem out into in the world, and that problem that our heroes would fix would inform our lives today. Like, oh, we shouldn't do that. But then when the messaging becomes all about like, okay, how is a female Doctor Who different from a male Doctor Who? What can female energy bring to the Time Lord's, well, job that a man couldn't do? Let's delve into that. And that could be really interesting. Like I'm curious, like, what happens if a female Time Lord decides she wants to be a mom? That could be a really interesting story. You know, by the way, I haven't seen all the Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who, so maybe they did that. I don't know. That could be fascinating because then being a Time Lord and being a woman could inform each other and tell us something interesting and new. But I feel like when they just decide we're going to make a female Doctor Who, that's all they care about. Like, that's great. Give me a female Doctor Who, but you still have to tell me a great story and give me a great character. And that's what we all want. Dylan sends in a tip and says, why is Warrior not talked about more? Maybe the best sports movie of all time and an ending that makes me tear up every time. Let's give this masterpiece some love. Dylan, I own Warrior on Blu-ray. Fantastic film. I mean, you know, take the sports out of it. It could be about anything. Any warrior. Really good stuff. It's funny because Warrior does get brought up a lot on this show. I think it's a great movie. I think people talk about it a lot more than you're giving credit for, because it's a great movie and it totally delivers. So I'm with you. Let's everyone just right now shout out to Warrior. Yeah. Raj sends in a tip, 1 of 2. Hi John and or Rob. Just finished Moon Knight episode 2. And I must say, to me, it's a decline from episode 1, which was to me the best in the Disney Plus era to date. I really enjoyed episode 2 up until the discussion between Stephen and Arthur. It was deep. But then the fight and the chatter between Mr. Knight and the dog creature felt to me just typical MCU. I also didn't like the trivializing of Khonshu, especially from his dreaded appearance from episode 1. Hope episode 3 will lift the quality again. Well, Raj, I have to respectfully disagree. I really liked it, but listen, as I've said on the John Campea Show, I think that we do not have in possession all of the facts. I don't think you're wrong in the observations you make, but I think that there's more going on than meets the eye. We, of course, will see I don't know, but I didn't think it was. I mean, you have a great first episode, but then you still have to tell a story, and every part of a story can't be, because there's a newness to that first episode, something new, like, ooh, you're finding your bearings, so it's immediately entertaining, and then as you move forward, things have to change. So, look, I'm hoping episode 3, because it is, by the way, as I record this, game day. I hope it's great. I really do. Suthius sends in a tip and says, okay, I looked up photos of F. Murray Abraham and said to myself, of course he voices an Egyptian god. He was great as Bratak in Stargate, a show all about Egyptian mythology. Wait, that's not him. Oh, that was Tony Amendola. Jesus Christ, they look alike. Well, Suthius, look, F. Murray Abraham's one of our great actors. If you haven't seen it, one of my favorite movies of all time is Amadeus, where he plays the composer Salieri, forever in Mozart's shadow. He's just a great actor. He was, of course, in Homeland. He was in the Star Trek, the Next Generation movie Insurrection as Rafu. He was great. He's been great in everything. So I'm glad you looked him up. As my friend Darren says, kids love F. I can't even say it. I ruined my own joke. I stepped on it. It was kids love F. Murray Abraham. And yes, they do. Jedi Jester, 1 of 3. Hello, John and crew. Long-time listener, first-time tipper. Well, Jedi Jester, thank you. Don't give in to hate. It leads to the dark side. This has been a good week for me. I finally got a copy of both DC Showcase Presents 73, first appearance of The Creeper, and Strange Adventures 2005, Strange Adventures issue 205, the first appearance of Deadman. Jedi Jester, were those slabbed? I don't know. Congratulations on getting those books. Always good to get Grail acquisitions. Jedi Jester goes on to say, these are 2 of my favorite lesser-known DC superheroes. Some of my other favorites are the Spectre, Resurrection Man, Starman, the Jack Knight version, Zatanna, and The Question. Well, Jedi Jester, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. I like all of those characters. Big fan, and I especially love the Creeper and Deadman. But those are great characters. And Jedi Jester goes on to say, 3 of 3. My question is, what chance would you give that we see 1 or more of these characters appearing in their own series or movie in the next 5 years or so? Ooh. I could see the Spectre in some kind of a film. Resurrection Man, I don't know. Starman. I've heard a talk that there'd be a Starman series. Zatanna, could see that. Magic-wielding hot girl in fishnets and a top hat. Of course, she'd probably have to dress differently, but... And I'd love to see a Question show. Love it. I think it'd be great. I have the first series of the Question that came out. I think they're doing an omnibus when DC first acquired the character. It's good stuff. And to ask you about Deadman and the Creeper, I mean, hell, I'd love to see both of those series. I don't know if they'll ever do movies of these characters, but I could see a Deadman series. I could see a Creeper series. Although, to be fair, the Creeper would be hard to do in like live action, just because the colors and the prosthetics. But I do love the character. I do. Stephen G says the Daily Screener with Ray Ora. John Campea. Just found out about the show a month or 2 ago. Well, Stephen G, welcome. Quickly became a part of my daily routine. This is what nerds like me wished radio talk shows had been like when I was a kid. Well, Steve G, if you can't see the show live, you can listen to the John Campea Show podcast wherever you find podcasts. So it is indeed a radio show. But I'm like you, like you said, I wished nerds like me, even though I'm on this show, so it's kind of self-serving for me to say it, but I would love to have watched a show like this when I was a kid, because I got to tell you, I'm not going to lie. It's damn fun to be in that studio with Ray, with Chris, with John. We have a great time. And if you watch today, our benefactor who sent us cases of aviation gin, I've been streaming with John Campea for 7 years. This week, April 14th, is my 7th anniversary on YouTube. I mean, I've drank on my own show, but not with other people, at least on other people's channels. So it was great. This show is great. The crew is great. Aaron is great. Can't wait to do more. And I'm glad you discovered us. I hope we continually deliver on a daily basis. Tom sends in a tip and says, "Hi, team. With Moon Knight having a very heavy Egyptian theme and knowing that the last 2 episodes were held back from viewing, what are the chances that Apocalypse makes an appearance? Not as a big role, but a hint to the future of the MCU." Tom, blah, blah, blah. I would love that, but of course, I would imagine if we see Apocalypse, it would have more to do with Kang and his Rama Tep guys. I don't think that we would see Apocalypse in this show. And that my caveat of that is, I wouldn't put anything past anyone these days. But I never saw Apocalypse and Moon Knight other than Egypt, ancient Egypt. More of a Kang thing, but you never know. You never know. Who knows? I'd be there for it. The Rock 203162 sends in a tip and says, "Dear John and crew, hi. How are you? Had a thought on the Batman. The ending, Batman grabs a vial. Is it possible the vial was Venom setting up Bane as the next villain? My question is, how would you introduce Bane or Mr. Freeze as future villains from The Rock?" Well, here's my thing. I mean, both Mr. Freeze and Bane, especially Venom, the Venom he injects, I don't know if they fit in Matt Reeves' Bat universe because the characters have more of a fantasy bent to them. That's not saying they can't do it, but I just think it's hard. It would be hard to incorporate them into the universe as depicted by Matt Reeves. I could see more like real world villains, more like the Court of Owls or something along those lines. I mean, but again, I don't know. I think Mr. Freeze, like I was saying, what if he's a mad scientist who's trying to revive his wife and he's doing these experiments and he freezes all the cadavers or freezes the bodies that he's experimenting on, and they find the corpses and they dub him Mr. Freeze. I could see something like that actually happening. Maybe. You never know. I don't know. This next one of 2, comes from Beverly Hills Messiah. Any thoughts on method acting? I read the comments from Morbius director on our Lord and Savior Jared Leto's methods. He kept using crutches while not filming, and the crew would put him in a wheelchair when he needed to use the bathroom to speed up production. How long did Morbius even use crutches in the movie? Sounds like Leto delayed things with his insecurities and gave us a mediocre performance. I agree with Mads Mikkelsen saying today that this sort of method acting is pretentious BS. Well, for those of you who don't know, yes, it's true. Reports have come out that Jared Leto, when he was trying to play Morbius to get into character while he was shooting, he wanted to be put in a wheelchair. He wanted to use real crutches. And even when they weren't shooting, he had to be pushed in a wheelchair to the bathroom. Look, I understand the idea of method acting, immersing yourself in the role by not acting but actually being as close to that real thing that you're playing on screen. I understand that. But acting means you're pretending. You're acting to be a certain way. Now, to me, what you're talking about, method acting, is research. If you want to do those things, don't do it on other people's time and money. So I'll tell you something. One of the only times that you can figure out how much, what is the most precious thing we have on earth? Gold, diamonds, Bitcoin, whatever. Time. Our time on this planet is finite. So anyone who's wasting your time, especially at work, is cutting into your life. And if someone needs to be, to me, if you want to know what it's like to act in a wheelchair, or you want to know what it's like to not be able to walk and use crutches, that's not the time. Being on set, when you have hundreds of people, when you're on set, like I'll give you an example. First of all, you're wasting other people's time. A movie set, you shoot for 12 hours. There's meals, there's all that, but you basically shoot for 12 hours. Let's just assume, for the sake of argument, simplicity, you understand. So say say your day, every single day of production costs you $200,000. All right? So there's 12 hours in a day. There's 60 minutes in an hour. And there's however many seconds in that hour, or however many seconds in a minute. You can actually calculate, and I don't know, somebody in the chat will have to tell me exactly what this would cost. If you're spending $200,000 a day and you have 12 hours to shoot, you can figure out by dividing down how many seconds are in 12 hours. Whatever that answer is, take 200,000, that's how much money you have, and figure out how many seconds are in that 12-hour span of time. And you can figure out exactly how many dollars is 1 second worth. Tick, 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 until your $200,000 is gone. If an actor needs to be, if you're wasting any time being pushed to a toilet to go to the bathroom because you're being a method actor, charge that actor. You should do that research before you get to set. I cannot abide. I appreciate the process that actors go through, but not when you're wasting. How much money is that? And everyone else is working their asses off to make their day. If your main actor is not making your day, that's problematic. Reamer Bulldog says, part 1, hey, John and Rob. Well, hello. Just saw Ambulance, and it's not a good movie. There are good moments, but overall, the dialogue and the writing is terrible. Some of the action is poorly shot. Things blow up for no reason. And there's so many logic issues in this movie that even the car chase gets tiring. Jake Gyllenhaal's decent in this movie, but his dialogue is poorly written. Ooh, part 3. I'm not a huge Michael Bay fan. A lot of his movies I don't like, so this movie is in that category for me. He's mediocre at best. Ambulance gets a 5 out of 10. Well, Reamer Bulldog, I haven't seen it. I think Michael Bay movies, Bayhem or whatever, he has a very specific way of making films. And I think people either take it the way it's meant, or they're like, well, that sucked. I mean, I don't think you can look like, here's the thing. Michael Bay has a website, or used to, called Shoot for the Edit or Shoot to the Edit, one of the two. So Michael Bay will set up 10 cameras. He won't be thinking, the cameras are in the best positions he thinks they're going to be in. And then he shoots a giant action scene, let's blow some shit up from 10 different camera angles. And then you look at those and you edit them. In the edit, you've got those 10 camera angles and you figure out which pieces of every one of those shots are great. And you cut them together and you watch an explosion. A Bay explosion is like, it doesn't just blow up once. It goes, they play it 3 or 4 times from different angles. And then they cut to different shots. It's an interesting way of making a movie, but it's not like Stanley Kubrick would never be like, he's like, I want this shot and this shot and this shot. We're going to run the cameras and that's what I want. Michael Bay doesn't have that skill set, I don't think. So that's not a bad thing. It's just true. Brad Frey says, after watching Black Panther today, I've realized that the main theme is essentially, with great power comes great responsibility, as the message from Killmonger was that their powers could help the rest of the world. What a great film. Well, Brad, I think that idea that with great power comes great responsibility is the crux, the cornerstone, if you will, of the MCU. So I agree with you. I think 100% that's exactly what they're saying. And the fact that Killmonger, is a great villain because he's not wrong. The problem is he's a murderer. All those, his scars, his scarification those are all people he killed. He's not a good man. And it's indefensible. But he's not wrong. With great power comes great responsibility. That's why he is indeed a great villain. And I do agree with you. It's good stuff. It's a great movie. And, John Campea and Ann, they took me and Elizabeth to see at the Hollywood Bowl. We saw Black Panther with a live orchestra. And it was amazing. Loved it. Justin Crockett says, hello, John and crew. I've been watching your YouTube. Feels like forever. Love the show. You've all inspired me to start my own movie review podcast. I wanted to know what are some tips about reviewing a movie and things to look for when you're doing so. That's a great question, Justin. Listen, John, I learned from the best. I learned all about YouTube from John Campea. But John Campea will tell you this. The best thing that you have when you're starting your own YouTube channel or you want to stream is yourself. You are the most unique thing about your YouTube stream. When you're reviewing a movie, what's important is that you understand what you believe. What do you think about a movie? You know, how do you contextualize it to yourself? If you're going to talk about, pick your favorite movie. What is it you liked about it? Maybe you like something different than someone else. The fact is, you, my friend, you, Justin Crockett, your view of what a movie is yours and yours alone. No one can take that from you. That's how you get YouTube success. What are you supposed to look at? Hey, whatever you want. What you should talk about is what you personally thought about the movie. Don't regurgitate other people's talking points. Don't say, well, I think you need to think about it this way. No. Just tell us what you thought of the movie. And don't tell us the movie sucked. That's not good analysis. I want to know why you, Justin Crockett, liked or disliked something. And your views and the way you present them will bring you YouTube success. Maybe. I mean, you still have to be good at that too. But congratulations on your channel. And that's all I would say is just be honest in your views. What is it you liked? What worked for you in the movie and what didn't? And that's what you're doing. You're selling yourself. So the way you see the world or movies might be different than anybody else. So that's what you're selling. That uniqueness, that is you. Reamer Bulldog says, part 1. I also saw Everything Everywhere All at Once for the first time. I also saw Everything Everywhere Always for the first time since 2006 in an AMC theaters. Wow, what a great experience. That was Regal's my first option, but AMC is definitely my second. Those recliner chairs, I just love the AMC theater experience. If AMC had IMAX, it would be my number one option, but it's still a great experience. Also, Everything Everywhere Always is at the core of the crazy stuff. It's about a mother and a daughter's relationship. Such a great movie. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Well, Reamer Bulldog, I'm glad you loved it. I'm glad you saw it there. And yeah, our AMC that has the Dolby experience also has an IMAX theater, which is great. The screen's really big, but I'm glad you had a great experience. Look, man, movie theaters have one thing they have to do. As I'm spitting, I apologize. They have to make movies look and sound good and provide the best experience for the audience. And if they don't do that, don't patronize that theater. And AMC, they do a pretty effing great job. Jack Lumbers sends in a tip and says, rewatching Chuck and was surprised that Leslie Ann Brandt and Tricia Helfer as guest stars in the show. Have you rewatched the show recently? I have not. If so, was there anyone on the show you were surprised to see? Well, you know what, Jack? What's so interesting is like when you're a working TV actor and you're not a lead in a show, you're going to show up in multiple different things. I have a friend named David Starzyk, Staryzyk, or Starzyk, David Starzyk. If you look him up on the IMDb, he is a very handsome guy, really funny, very charismatic, has 2 great sons, married a beautiful wife who's also incredibly hot, and an actress that I work with on the Vulcan Seat for Axonar. Amazing family. Love them both. Look up David Starzyk. Look at how many shows he's been in. Incredible. I'm like, you were in that? It's like, yep. I mean, it's incredible. Certain actors that have been in the game for a long time, it's so amazing what you can see. Like Tricia Helfer and who else you see? Oh, Leslie Ann Brandt. I mean, I'm never surprised finding out because actors had to get their start somewhere. You know, George Clooney was like living in a closet when he was on Facts of Life. So it never ceases to amaze me where actors show up. Captain, is it Seamus? Hey, John, remember a couple of months ago I asked you about the rumor that Brie Larson was in talks for Hobbs & Shaw 2? Welp, she is now confirmed for Fast 10. What are your thoughts on this? And can we look back on the rumor as true? Thanks, and much love to all. Well, if the rumor was she was going to be in Hobbs & Shaw, it's not true. So I wouldn't look back on it and say anything other than the fact that, wow, so she's going to be in Fast 10. Congratulations, Brie Larson. And all we can do is go, that's pretty dope. Pretty awesome. Yumi Yumi sends in a tip and says, one of my favorite shows, The Last Kingdom, recently came to a close on Netflix. Though we still have a movie to come, I already miss following the cast and characters on Uthred's journey. I don't recall you ever talking about the show. I have not seen The Last Kingdom. Have you seen it? And more generally, what are your thoughts on concluding a series with a movie instead of another season? Well, in Asian territories, like anime shows or anime series are frequently ended with a movie, or they'll take episodes, compile them into a movie. So I'm a fan of that. I think that's cool. I like this. I like more and more. Like, obviously, Breaking Bad had not El Dorado, El Camino, and that finished that and told you a different story. I like that. I think that could be cool. But I haven't seen The Last Kingdom, but people certainly love it. So who am I to say? I mean, I'm sure it's great because many people that I trust love it. So I'm like, hey, if you guys love it, well, I'll go with you. Joel C. says, if you're still considering names, since you don't want your name in the title or one that sounds too generic, and fans keep suggesting Bring on the Filthy, but that doesn't convey what the show is, what about calling it Bring on the Film Talk as a compromise? That's not bad. I mean, I obviously can't speak for John, but I would say that I think we need a name that sounds cool, that isn't limiting, because we don't just talk film, we talk about TV shows, we talk about the business of Hollywood. I think we need something that encompasses the whole idea of entertainment, the spectrum of entertainment. I don't know what that is, but I do think that's kind of what we're looking for. Sort of, I guess. Michael Jones sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, Michael. Hey, John, saw everything all at once, and it's fantastic. I saw Ambulance also, and I liked it. I got Doctor Strange tickets. I logged on an hour after they went on sale. I only waited 1 minute and was able to use my A-list. Michael, first of all, high five to that. That's awesome. Some of us didn't. Some other people got gummed up in the works. I guess it depends on where you're at and what you're expecting. But that is good for you, sir. Very exciting. And I can't wait to talk about Doctor Strange. I think it's going to be bonkers and fun, and who knows what's going to happen. Chloe Fanning sends in a tip and says, would you consider Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory to be the first movie ever to be considered a cult classic? Or is it just the circumstances of when it was released prior to the invention of home video? What would be the first cult classic film? Ooh, man. I mean, to be honest, I think probably the thing that first popped into my mind is a movie called Reefer Madness. Not the new one, the original Reefer Madness that was about the dangers of marijuana, the unholy weed, the skunk weed, the dank nugs, whatever you want to call them. Reefer Madness, I want to say it came out in the 30s, or Freaks or something like that. I mean, we have to go way, 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 way before Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to get your first cult movies. But that's a great cult classic. I love the film, so... But look up Reefer Madness, look up those kinds of things. Look up Todd Browning's Freaks. To a certain extent, I'd say Dracula and Frankenstein. Maybe Metropolis, 1927. But no, there have been cult movies for as long as there have been movies. And but it's a great question, Chloe. I love that. And I wouldn't say, to me, the first cult movie, the first thing that came to my mind was Reefer Madness. I could be wrong about that, and then Freaks would be number 2. Jermaine King says, I just started watching Winning Time, and I realized that Dr. Buss's assistant is the little girl from Field of Dreams. Yes, she is, and she's all grown up. And I mean, what's so interesting is they've made her look more severe than she looks in real life, but you're absolutely right. That is the girl from Field of Dreams. Like what? Almost like 35 years later? How crazy is that? And she's really, really, really good. And she was also in Sleepless in Seattle. Glenn Tracy says, what do you think of the rumor that Disney are holding off releasing the Thor trailer until after the finale of Moon Knight, as Gore the God Butcher might be in the show, and he is the one who kills all the Egyptian gods and then goes after the Norse gods? Glenn, we were talking about that. That could be. I am very obsessed with the cosmology of the MCU. Like, how do you go from Egyptian gods to Norse gods to the Celestials and the Eternals? Like, what do you do? And I honestly Don't know the answer to that, but I think that we're going to find out. I mean, will Gore the God Butcher be revealed? I don't think so, only because, I mean, not to be prejudicial against a TV show, but when you have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all bets are off. I don't know the answer to that, but it could be. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John and team, longtime listener. One of two. I remember a while back you said if you want to create something, you have to get off your ass and do it. Well, I've got off my ass. And with the help of some very talented people, I'm currently in production on a stated production of a Robin Hood film. We have 3 weeks left of filming to go, but after suffering with my mental health over the last few years, this has, alongside your show, been the best therapy. Bring on the filthy." Anonymous, first of all, we love to hear that on the show. I have a theory about life. Most people sit at home or they sit in the dead-end jobs. They're not happy. And they wonder why they're not happy. And they like, what's wrong? Well, you know what's wrong? What's wrong is you. You're wrong because you're not doing shit. Everybody talks about, I want to do this, I want to do that. You know what? Doing things is really hard. And as you have said, watching our show, you decided you're going to make a Robin Hood movie, and clearly you're shooting for a while. So now you know how really hard it is to make movies. But you also know how fulfilling it is when you're actually doing this. The only way you can get true value and worth for yourself in your life is to dream things and go accomplish them. That's the only way you're going to be happy. Otherwise, you'll consume yourself. And I've seen it. I can't tell you how many people I've seen in my life. They're like, oh, I really want to do this, or oh, I really want to do that. You know what my answer to them is? Okay, go do it. Why aren't you doing it? And then the answer is like, well, Rob, I'm not like you. I'm like, bruh, here's the thing. Not like me. All I have done in my life is do things that interest me. That's it. Nobody made me do them. You have to go out and do them, and they are hard. Tango Shalom, which, by the way, has been nominated for Best Independent Comedy at Film Threat's Award This award show. Probably won't win, I don't know. But I worked on that movie for years. I could have at any one moment said, screw this, I'm not going to do this, whatever. I didn't. I stuck with it, and it took us a total, believe it or not, of almost 8 years to get that movie finished. Now, to be fair, I wasn't involved in all of those 8 years, but we persevered and got it out there. It played in India. It played in Turkey. It won the Audience Award at the first Muslim Comedy Film Festival in Rabat, Morocco. And that was all because we sat in rooms and we didn't give up and we made it. It's a tough road to go, but you're making a movie now. You understand the gratification when you've had a great work day. So Anonymous, congratulations. We want to see your movie. Send us a link that we can promote it. I love that. Chloe Fanning says, with the Depp and Heard case, what is the possibility of both of them going bankrupt, regardless of the outcome? Even if Depp was to win his case, he already has had tremendous money troubles, given the amount of money both of them are spending on these cases. Listen, the only people that make money in lawsuits are the lawyers, and this is an unfortunate situation. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It really, truly sucks. And then it becomes public, and it's no good for anyone. But yeah, it's costing them millions of dollars. The whole thing is stupid. At least that's the way I see it. So, no one wins. Noose Rat Groupie sends in a tip and says, hi, John and or Rob. John, have you seen that clip of Seth Meyers' show of the Parks and Rec cast, and Chris is singing 5,000 Candles in the Wind? In the background, you see April and Jerry actors making out. It's so funny. I want to know your thoughts. I just want to thank you for all the great content and can't wait to see the new studio and all the exciting new stuff. Thanks again, and bring on the filthy. Well, first of all, I'm sorry, Mouse Rat Groupie, that you're the last question. And I hate to disappoint you. I have not seen the clip on the Seth Meyers show, the Parks and Rec cast, singing 500 Candles in the Wind. I haven't seen it, so I don't know what to say. I feel bad. I feel bad that I can't answer your question. I hope you won't hold it against me. I want to thank you for supporting the channel and all of that. But the new studio is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. And Mouse Rat Groupie, you, my friend, are the last question of the day on today's mailbag. And I feel bad because I can't answer it. I promise next time you'll get John. So here we are at the end of Mailbag for Tuesday, April 12th. Gilbert, Tallulah, would any of you like to come over here and be on camera? I've lulled them to sleep with the dulcet tones of my voice. You can see, let's see if I can show you him. There's Gilbert. Wait, let's get him over here. There is Gilbert. He's a Bernedoodle. He's 75% poodle and 25% Bernese Mountain Dog, and he weighs about 70 pounds. So there he is. Clearly, I have lulled my dogs to sleep. No barking and none of that. Anyway, so that's good. I want to thank all of you out there for generously supporting the John Campea Show and the channel with your tips and super chats, your tips on this show. Of course, if you want to get your voice heard live on the John Campea Show after we get to the end of our topics, we will open up the super chats and you can fire one in and we will read it on the show. Or, like you've already done here with Mailbag, 24/7 around the world, day or night, you can send us a chip. I don't know what a chip would do unless it's a $100,000 chip from a Vegas casino. But you can send us a tip, and if we deem it appropriate, we will read it on the air. To be honest, I'm trying to figure out how can John send me the questions that are inappropriate. I think that'd be kind of cool, but I don't know if he gets those things. What does he do with them? I don't know. But anyway, you can send us a tip. We will read it on the mailbag. Sometimes it'll be me. Sometimes it will be John. Or if you're lucky, it'll be a tag team. It'll be like Gretzky and whoever he was playing with. I don't know. But it'd be like that. We're like on the ice, swooping in and out. We're answering your questions to the best of our ability. But thank you very, very much from all of us here at the John Campea Show, whether it's John, whether it's Aaron, whether it's Chris, whether it's, of course, Ray Ora, or me. Thank you for the support of this channel. It means a great deal. My name is Robert Meyer Burnett. You can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Post Geek Singularity. I say goodbye to all of you imagination connoisseurs on this mailbag for Tuesday, April 12th, 2022.